Hello again, Patreon. I thought I'd be starting out this video by thanking you for putting me over 500 supporters in the month of May, but then you put me over 600 supporters in the same month. So yeah, wow, it's pretty great. There are more of you here every month. It looks like the rate of new supporters may even be increasing, so this is all just extremely awesome. There have been several things that happened in the past month to bring a lot of new people over. I did an episode of Chris Shiflett's very popular Walking the Floor podcast. Those of you in Europe may want to see about finding a copy of Country Music People magazine or the British version of GQ. I'm in both of those. Probably the biggest thing, though, is the conversations I've been having around the opening of the new Outlaws and Armadillos exhibit at the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. I think I talked with a lot of people about that, including like NPR. I'll put as many of these links as I can find in the post for this video if anyone hasn't seen any of this stuff. That Outlaw Country exhibit is really great, though. I get a lot of people asking me when I'm going to get deep into the Outlaw Country stuff on the podcast, and honestly, I'm really not in a rush to get there. It'll probably be a few years, and one reason I say that is it's probably the most talked about period of the entire genre. It was a great time for country music, and everyone knows that, which is why it's more important for me to talk about the other times in country music that people don't know as much about. If you would like a preview of my perspective on it, then definitely check out that NPR piece. Like I said, the exhibit is great. That piece it's just a conversation between me and Julie Height from NPR after taking an early tour of the exhibit. So it was my immediate response. This is the first things that I was thinking after having just seen it, and I was really excited. It was really great. I feel like they're doing important work over there. If you're going to be in Nashville anytime in the next couple years or so, I would definitely recommend checking that whole museum out and that exhibit specifically. The events around the exhibit opening were a total blast too. I got to see a lot of people I don't get to see very often, and there was this once-in-a-lifetime concert with too many legends to even try to list. It was just mind-blowing. It was incredible. This whole month has also been really great for making progress on the second season in general. You probably remember last month's video. I mentioned how much other stuff besides country music I was having to think about and how I didn't like that very much. I was taking a lot of meetings, having to come home, think about what was discussed in those meetings, weigh the pros and cons of all these things, and try to make the best decisions, all that stuff. And even though I had a lot going on in May, it was all about country music. It wasn't business stuff. I was hanging out and talking a lot, but it was about country music. And when I get home from some cool country music thing, I've been thinking about country music. I've been excited about country music. And I'm in a headspace where I can come home, sit down, and get into the books the way that I need. So it's been a really good month. I got a lot of reading done in May, a lot. In fact, I'm almost all the way through the stack of books that I think I'll need to read for season 2. By the way, I'm not sure if I even mentioned or not ever, but I think there are around 30 books in that stack. And like I showed you a couple months ago, we're not talking about some half-ass spaced out through a couple pages here and there just to be able to say I read it type of reading. It's real reading, retaining the information. So it's a lot. I do still have a few left, but the stack is a lot shorter now than it was when I started. So we're making good progress here. Just got to finish those last few books, get all the books I've read converted over to notes like I talked about in that one video. Then it'll be time to spend a few days in the Hall of Fame archives to make sure I'm not missing anything. And that's when I can get serious about structuring the whole season. And there are a few different possibilities for how this could all go down. It'll just depend on what I find in the rest of these books and what I find in the archives. I expect to be able to talk about the poll episode next month, and there's a chance I may even be able to run the poll next month, but we'll see. Okay, I want to talk about a couple more things. As you may or may not know, CMA Fest is happening right now in Nashville. Spotify asked me to be in a video about the history of CMA Fest, which used to be called Fanfare. There's a lot of other people in the video. Probably the coolest artist for most of you will be Alan Jackson. I was pretty stoked to be in a video with Alan Jackson. This is out now in the Spotify app. If you have Spotify, you can open it up and just search the words CMA Fest in the app. Scroll down to the video results, and the video will be right there. I think it's like 8 or 9 minutes long. I'll also mention here that this video with Spotify came about after a conversation I had with them because they wanted to know why I hadn't put my podcast on Spotify. And I don't need to get into all of that, but we did have a talk about their business, their plans, and how they'd like to help me do what I'm doing. So, long story short, the conversation changed my mind about a couple of things, and most importantly, made me realize that educating people about the history of country music and the history of the business of country music can only help. And that's the way I feel about it. So, for everyone who's asked me why the podcast isn't on Spotify or if it's going to be on Spotify, it will be on Spotify probably within the week. One last thing. I'm recording this video on Friday, June 8th. I don't know if I'll have time to get it online before this happens, but tomorrow morning, I'm going down to the Country Music Hall of Fame to do an event with Ashley Monroe. If you don't know Ashley, she's been making killer country music for a long time. She just put out a magnificent album called Sparrow, and tomorrow, Ashley is going to play some songs from her new album, and between songs, I will be interviewing her a little bit in front of an audience. I've been interviewed a lot in my life, but I've never really interviewed anyone else before, so this should be interesting. I'm told that all the advance RSVPs were maxed out the day the event was announced, so even if I did manage to get this video out before the event, it's not like anyone who doesn't already know about it would be able to get in. So sorry I'm a little late, but it wouldn't really have made a difference. However, if I do manage to get this video out in time, you can watch a live stream of the event on the Hall of Fame's website, and they'll put the video on there after it's all said and done. So it should be available on the website, forever, I guess. So that's the thing that's happening. You're all going to get to see it if you want to. That's it. Tomorrow, this is the last big thing I need to do before I can get all reclusive and obsessive with season 2. I've already recorded some guest spots on another podcast or two. I honestly can't remember if there are any more magazine articles coming out or anything. But for the most part, my schedule is entirely clear to work on Cocaine and Rhinestones. This is very exciting to me. Thank you. I'll see you next month.